A pretty important horror movie is hitting theaters this weekend, and it comes from a pretty high profile horror creator as well. Casper Kelly has been in the horror scene for quite a while now, but his claim to fame is the Adult Swim horror short Too Many Cooks. I highly recommend you give it a watch. It's only 12 minutes and it's really fantastic and unsettling. I think it's worth mentioning here for two reasons. The first is that Buddy seemed like a return to form for Casper, taking elements from Too Many Cooks and turning them into a feature film. Buddy features another old television program parody with dark undertones, this time a children's television program in the same vein as Barney the Dinosaur. I'll be comparing Too Many Cooks to Buddy quite often since they share some very similar DNA and story structure. I also think Too Many Cooks is worth seeing because if you're looking for horror of that nature, I wouldn't recommend Buddy. I went into this film with some really high hopes and expectations. I really love Too Many Cooks, and I thought with a large budget, Kelly could make something truly twisted and eerie. Yet this film being more focused on telling a coherent story, or a somewhat coherent story, but we'll get to that later, brings down a lot of the horror and fun of a story like this. By stretching out its concept for an entire film's length, you start to feel its pacing and story structure fall apart. I won't get too in-depth with the plot, as the marketing of the film tries to leave out as much of it as possible, but of course, there is something amiss with this children's television show. If you're looking forward to seeing Kristen Milioti, Topher Grace, or Michael Shannon, I would keep your expectations very much in check. The film focuses much more on the children in the Buddy show, and they each have very small appearances. I think the production design is the film's strongest aspect, capturing the same feeling and look of those old television shows. Then the film also plays around with different camera aspect ratios and filming styles. When something scary happens in the show, the camera direction still acts like it's all a normal episode of children's television. It doesn't linger on anything horrific, it just acts like everything is fine. So then when this style breaks, you really start to get nervous about what's about to happen. However, one of my larger issues with the film is that I never found it all that unsettling or scary. I don't need jump scares or anything, but because the film uses a lot of child actors, not that much can be shown. Horror films can still be tense without gore or violence, but I never found the threat of the film to be all that threatening. But this problem comes from a number of factors. The first 20 minutes or so were the highlight of the film, as it slowly ratcheted up the tension and unease in the viewer. That's when Buddy is at its best, when it is the television show it's made to parody. Yet once something major happens, I thought it was going to be full steam ahead, and then the movie just falls off really hard. The rules in the TV world are sort of wishy-washy, so it was hard to feel tension towards our characters. Sometimes characters can reach unexpected places a little too easily, or characters can stay long periods of time out in the open without consequence. Even worse, none of them are very memorable or interesting. They all act very similar to one another. This is no issue with the child actors themselves, but more so the writing of the film. Some character motivations are all over the place. Okay, so the film isn't that scary. Hey, maybe it's more of a horror comedy. But it's not that funny either. Sure, there's a couple of laughs here and there, but that's still being a little generous. Well, maybe the movie has poignant themes. Maybe it does, but I don't really care if it did. I never got the impression that the film had anything to say about childhood, fear, or maybe the horrors of working in this industry as a child. These are all things I think the movie could have been about. It has some really off-putting moments as well that fell way out of left field and didn't work for me at all, and left me uncomfortable in only the wrong ways. And these moments go absolutely nowhere as well. On top of all of this, the movie wraps up in a way that is ultimately very unsatisfying. It leaves a few unanswered questions, which could work in a film, but even when my theory crafting mind doesn't want to think about them, that's a pretty big misfire. It also starts to do something interesting right at the finish line, but it still falls ultimately flat. So after I watched the movie, I asked myself, what's even the point? This sort of unsettling nostalgic horror is so abundant these days, and much better on easily accessible platforms like YouTube, or in the indie horror game scene. Kelly likely needed a larger budget for the idea he was going for, but Buddy does not work in a film format. I bet as a short YouTube horror series with fan theories or cryptic hidden messages, you could likely salvage something out of this. But I have to rate this movie for what it is, not what it could have been. And because of that, I think Buddy is best left avoided.